Swedish General Michael Claesson has issued a stark warning. He believes the world is a more dangerous place today than during the Cold War. This assessment, from a seasoned military leader, is deeply concerning. It reflects the growing anxieties among many experts about the current geopolitical climate. General Claesson's concerns stem from the unpredictable nature of today's threats. He points to the actions of Russian President Vladimir Putin as a prime example. The invasion of Ukraine, he argues, demonstrates a willingness to use military force in a way that was unthinkable just a few years ago. This unpredictability, according to General Claesson, makes the current situation far more volatile than the Cold War. During that era, there were clear lines of communication and established mechanisms for managing conflict. Today, those safeguards are weaker, leaving the world vulnerable to miscalculation and escalation. His warning serves as a wake-up call. We can no longer afford to view global security through the lens of the past. The threats we face are evolving, and we must adapt our thinking and our strategies to meet them head-on. Vladimir Putin's Russia has become a major source of global instability. His actions, often shrouded in secrecy and driven by a mix of historical grievances and expansionist ambitions, have kept the world on edge. The invasion of Ukraine is just the most visible manifestation of this new, assertive, and unpredictable Russia. Putin's decision-making process remains opaque to Western observers. His inner circle is small and fiercely loyal, making it difficult to gather intelligence or anticipate his next move. This lack of transparency makes it challenging to deter Russian aggression or find diplomatic solutions to crises. Adding to the complexity is Putin's willingness to use a wide range of tools to achieve his objectives. These include military force, cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and economic coercion. This hybrid warfare approach blurs the lines between war and peace, making it difficult to respond effectively. The West is struggling to adapt to this new reality. Traditional deterrence strategies, which relied on predictability and a clear understanding of the adversary's intentions, are no longer as effective. A new playbook is needed, one that recognizes the unpredictable nature of the Putin regime and is prepared to counter its multifaceted threats. While the current geopolitical climate is often compared to the Cold War, there are crucial differences that make today's situation even more precarious. During the Cold War, the world was largely divided into two blocks, each led by a superpower with a clear ideological agenda. Today, the world is far more multipolar. New centers of power have emerged, including China, India, and the European Union. Moreover, the rise of non-state actors, such as terrorist organizations and cybercriminal networks, adds another layer of complexity. These asymmetric tactics allow adversaries to inflict significant damage without resorting to traditional military force, blurring the lines between war and peace. This makes the current geopolitical environment far more complex and unpredictable. The Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 marked a watershed moment in international relations. It shattered the post-Cold War peace in Europe and sent shockwaves across the globe. The invasion was a brutal assault on a sovereign nation, and a challenge to the international order. Putin's justification was dismissed as a pretext for a land grab. The international community responded with sanctions targeting the Russian economy. However, these measures have failed to deter Putin. The conflict has resulted in thousands of casualties and a massive humanitarian crisis. NATO expansion and Russian aggression. Russia views NATO expansion as a direct threat. Moscow sees it as a betrayal of Western promises after the Soviet Union's collapse. The Kremlin justifies its actions in Georgia and Ukraine by citing NATO expansion. The West argues NATO is defensive, responding to Russia's assertive behavior. NATO points to Russia's military buildup, Crimea annexation, and support for separatists. The war in Ukraine has escalated tensions between Russia and NATO. Section 6. The New Front Lines, Cyber Warfare and Disinformation. The current geopolitical landscape is not just defined by traditional military threats but also by new forms of warfare, particularly in the cyber and information domains. Russia has become adept at using these tools to sow discord, undermine democratic institutions, and advance its geopolitical interests. Russian cyber attacks have targeted critical infrastructure in Ukraine, Estonia, and other countries, disrupting power grids, financial institutions, and government websites. These attacks are often designed to create chaos and undermine public trust in democratic institutions. In addition to cyber attacks, Russia has engaged in widespread disinformation campaigns, spreading propaganda and fake news through state-controlled media outlets and social media platforms. These campaigns aim to shape public opinion, influence elections, and undermine Western unity. The West has been slow to respond to these new forms of aggression. Traditional deterrence strategies, which rely on the threat of military retaliation, are not effective against cyber attacks or disinformation campaigns. Moreover, attributing these attacks to specific actors can be difficult, making it challenging to mount an effective response. Section 7. The Global Impact, Energy Security, and Economic Uncertainty. The war in Ukraine has had far-reaching economic consequences, particularly in the energy sector. Russia is a major supplier of oil and natural gas to Europe, and the conflict has disrupted global energy markets, leading to soaring prices and concerns about supply shortages. The European Union, heavily reliant on Russian energy, has scrambled to find alternative sources of supply and reduce its dependence on Moscow. This has led to a scramble for liquefied natural gas, or LNG, from other suppliers, such as the United States and Qatar. The war has also exacerbated existing inflationary pressures, driving up the cost of food, fuel, and other essential goods. This has disproportionately impacted developing countries, many of which are already struggling with poverty, hunger, and climate change. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has warned that the war in Ukraine could lead to a global recession, citing the impact of sanctions, supply chain disruptions, and heightened uncertainty. The conflict has highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy and the need for international cooperation to address common challenges. Section 8. Living with Uncertainty, the Need for Vigilance and Preparedness. In this volatile and unpredictable geopolitical environment, vigilance and preparedness are paramount. We must be prepared to confront a wide range of threats, from traditional military aggression to cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, and economic coercion. This requires investing in our military capabilities, strengthening our alliances, and developing new tools and strategies to counter hybrid warfare tactics. It also requires building resilience at home, protecting our critical infrastructure, and countering disinformation and foreign interference in our societies. Public awareness and engagement are also crucial. We must be informed about the threats we face, understand the role of disinformation, and be prepared to hold our leaders accountable for protecting our national security. Section 9. The Power of Alliances, Collective Security in a Fragmented World. In a world increasingly defined by uncertainty and risk, alliances are more important than ever. Collective security arrangements such as NATO provide a framework for cooperation, deterrence, and collective defense. NATO's resurgence in the wake of the Ukraine war demonstrates the enduring importance of collective defense in the face of shared threats. The alliance's commitment to Article 5, which states that an attack on one member is an attack on all, has provided a measure of reassurance to its members, particularly those located on NATO's eastern flank. Beyond NATO, other regional and global partnerships are essential for addressing transnational challenges such as terrorism, climate change, pandemics, and cybercrime. These challenges do not respect borders and require collaborative solutions. Section 10. Seeking Dialogue, the Importance of Communication and Diplomacy. While we must be prepared to defend our interests and values, diplomacy and dialogue remain essential tools for managing international relations and preventing conflict. Open lines of communication are crucial for reducing misunderstandings, building trust, and finding common ground. This is particularly important in the context of the current tensions between Russia and the West. While it may be tempting to cut off all contact with Moscow, maintaining diplomatic channels even at a reduced level is essential for conveying red lines, managing crises, and exploring potential off-ramps from conflict. Diplomacy is not a sign of weakness, but rather a recognition that dialogue, even with adversaries, is essential for avoiding miscalculation and preventing conflicts from spiraling out of control. Section 11. Conclusion. Navigating a perilous present, shaping a safer future. The world is at a crossroads. The rules-based international order is under strain, great power competition is intensifying, and new threats are emerging in the cyber and information domains. Navigating this complex and challenging landscape requires vigilance, preparedness, and a willingness to adapt to changing circumstances. We must be clear-eyed about the threats we face, but we must also remain hopeful about our ability to shape a more peaceful and prosperous future. By strengthening our alliances, investing in our defenses, embracing diplomacy, and upholding the values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law, we can navigate the challenges ahead and build a safer world for ourselves and future generations.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.